When I hear consciousness, I think about how the human brain works and how we all have our own set of thoughts and actions that we're aware of. So like consciousness to me is like the awareness that like you're here and you're alive.
So where's consciousness located?
In your brain.
You think consciousness is local to the brain?
Mm-hmm.
You don't think it extends outward?
No, I think it extends outward, but I think it starts in the brain.
So is there a differentiation in your mind from spirit and consciousness?
For me, no.
Okay, so where does spirit exist?
Well, spirit starts inside of me and extends outwardly.
Okay. I'm trying. I want to get an understanding of where you're at in understanding what the role of consciousness is, like in life, like in our human experience. Consciousness is why we're here. The evolution of consciousness, and I'm sure you've heard Great Awakening, you've heard spiritual awakening, you've heard like consciousness journey, all this stuff, right? And like, what does it actually mean? I think a lot of people get confused by that.
Yeah. Well, I think about it like in terms of like levels. So like the plants outside are alive, but they're not necessarily aware of their own life. They have a purpose. They have daily tasks that they complete and photosynthesize and whatnot. Are we good?
Yeah, my mic was just low. We should be good.
Okay. And then you like bump it up to like, I don't know, like a cow. Again, a cow, it's alive and it goes through its daily life, but it's not really aware that it's living. And then you have like your dog, your house pet, depending on what type of dog you have. Some dogs are very conscious. They know their name. They know certain commands. And then human consciousness kind of takes things up to like a whole different level where we have the ability to like be so deeply aware of our existence in the world.
Yes. So I understand it in regards to densities of consciousness.
Yeah.
Right?
Like,
so it comes from the law of one, and there's other texts that talk about it. But the law of one, shout out Ra, he's the guy. He's really not a guy. He's a social memory complex, and it's not a he or she. It's a them. And basically what the law of one talks about in regards to densities of consciousness is that there are levels to this game, right? There are levels, and we are on this evolution of consciousness, and that's the journey, right? Coming from oneness, we diverge from one, right? Like God created this universe. God was one, unified, the unified singular, the one infinite creator, right? Creates this universe and separates himself in order to find his way back. So basically the evolution of consciousness is from the start of the universe, right? Some call it the Big Bang, when everything started expanding outward from one single point. And the universe now, and God is tasked with finding his way back home as he's expanding out, right? And that's where we come in. That's where consciousness, the role of consciousness comes in, is that it's gaining this sense of self-awareness through love, right? To find its way to know, to understand, to love, to appreciate, accept, and see itself and its own divinity, right? So when you're talking about the levels of the game, right? So like for me, the first level, and as Law 1 explains it, is the first level of the game is the elements. At their most integral point, they're just being. A rock. A rock is a rock. It's just being. It's just being a rock. And it'll be a rock for billions and billions of years, and it'll never have any inclination to not be a rock because it just loves being a rock. And it doesn't even love being a rock. It's just a rock. It's not even aware it's a rock.
Yeah.
So it's at that level of self-awareness. Then fire, right? Fire is another example of it, where it lights up. Fire's just being fire, doing its own dance, right? And those different elements feed into the archetypes that grow into other forms of consciousness. A completely different discussion. But second density of consciousness is when these different elements come together, right? When say, for example, when earth and water come together and are paired with ether, we have this development of consciousness, right, on our planet, where little fish are crawling out of the ocean, developing microbial life, and eventually they're crawling out of the ocean. And I don't know, I find that super fascinating because it's just over billions and billions of years it's developing.
Yeah, and now it's a whole ecosystem on its own.
And that ecosystem leads up to us. So we went from the second density of consciousness, which is microbial life, which has little degrees of self-awareness, no sense of community, no sense of love, right? At the very basic level of second density consciousness. And you brought up your dog. Your dog has a self-awareness. If your dog looks in the mirror, your dog knows it's a dog. I mean, it doesn't call itself a dog, but it knows that's me. Your dog, you say, hey, Tulip, come here. Tulip comes running. So they have this degree of self-awareness, and where that flips is where the ego gets developed, right? And dogs, you can see some dogs have that.
Yeah.
Some animals have that. And that's where humans are so powerful. And that's why we're at this turning point on our planet where we've had the ego for tens and tens of thousands of years, and we're developing past that into that next density of consciousness where we're going through the ego trips right now. We're going through the substances. We're going through the power struggles. We're going through the politics and the cultural revolutions and all the differences in physical appearance. And we're finding our way back to love, which is the journey of consciousness.
Right. And then what's next?
So in my mind, in my opinion, we don't see what's next in our physical incarnation. But as consciousness continues to develop, we're in an integral turning point, the age of Aquarius on planet Earth. Right? This turning point is where where countries break down the borders, where it's one unified Earth, where we start hearing more about extraterrestrial intelligence, where we start seeing each other as you and me, and we're not so separate after all. Yeah. Right? That's where love comes in. Why are humans so obsessed with marriage and all these sex and advertisements and interpersonal connection, just wanting to be seen, heard, and understood? It's because we're obsessed with love, and we're trying to understand what it's like to get to that next level. We only have a glimpse. Some people got to take heroin to it. Some people have to fuck hookers to feel that next level. But then you have people in Shaolin monks and temples and yogis that are experiencing that next level consciously through sobriety, through intention.
Yeah, like when you boil it all down, that's what it's coming down to. Yeah.
And like us, you and I, we're helping that by cultivating love in our interpersonal relationship. And like our love is an act of service to humanity. By us practicing love, we're exponentially able to show up more like love in the world. That's why I drive my car and I say, I am loving awareness, I am loving awareness, I am loving awareness, because love has this exponential effect. Right? We're talking about the field, like the conscious. We started off like the field, the consciousness field, right? It extends outward. There's no limit. It's infinite, right? And you can extend that out. Yeah. Through love, by cultivating that between us.
Yeah, so like love's kind of at the heart of everything. No pun intended.
Yeah.
It's the driving force. It's leading the ship. But then how do like all the other like emotions play a role in that?
Well, think about love as less like an emotion in this way. Love isn't an emotion. Love is our nature. I am loving awareness isn't I am love. Like it's not like an affirmation of emotion. It's an affirmation of our nature, right? Saying I'm at peace is an affirmation of an emotion. Being in love is an emotion. Like I love you, like that's an emotional attraction to you. But the state of being in love is not an emotional state. The state of being in love is being at one, unified. It's not an emotion. to connection.
Right, because we feel that love is who we innately are and made of.
Yeah. God is love.
Mm-hmm.
And if I am God and you're God, and I see the divinity in you and you see the divinity in me, we can be loved together.
Right.
And that's why we're doing this relationship thing.
Yeah. Spreading our love.
Walking each other back home, baby.
Walking each other back home. That's funny.
Yeah.
So you said that the next level we cannot see, right?
Physically.
Right. So when does that come? Does that come when you pass? Does that come, like, what are your thoughts on that?
I am under the impression that we live in this cycle of reincarnation.
Mm-hmm.
We've probably lived 1 billion lives before we ended up in these human meat suits.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll probably live 1 billion more
Mm-hmm.
before we get out of them. Maybe. Who knows? Maybe this could be the last one as a human.
Is this the last one?
But where the fourth density of consciousness goes, when we're thinking about it in terms of densities of consciousness, we're thinking about it, one being primal nature. When you think about it in your chakras, one being the primal nature, the elements, the root, right? That's the start of everything. It's where it diverges. Think about the sacral, right? Mm-hmm. The next one is the sacral. That's where everything's starting to diverge. Everything's starting to create. There's this degree of self-awareness in consciousness that creates. You see a tree creating these unique fractal patterns. You see these universes spiraling in these unique ways, and how the Fibonacci sequence, if you're familiar with the golden ratio, mm-hmm. and how that is like as above, so below. A galaxy spirals out at the same rate as a flower does, mm-hmm. or an almond, mm-hmm. right? Or when your water is going down the drain in your toilet, it's spiraling at that Fibonacci sequence, right? So we see this second density of consciousness at the sacral level, where consciousness develops this innate ability to create, but without self-awareness. So there's mm-hmm. very little self-awareness at that secondary of consciousness. They start developing love, right? Think about higher densities of self-awareness, where a cow, right? A cow has a baby and it starts to love it, right? Monkeys, they're real high degree of self-awareness. They have this tribe, they have a leader, they have egos, mm-hmm. they have their own little emotions. Yeah. They don't have words to put them together. And then the script flips when humans come around. Right. We have these egos, this third density of consciousness, right? We have this ego battle. We look in the mirror and say, whoa, this is me and I'm separate from you.
Yeah, it makes things messy.
Mm-hmm. And this is the most difficult level of the game, because this is the only time we're separate.
Yeah.
This is the only time we're separate.
Yeah, because when you have the ego at that level of consciousness, you're not only battling yourself, you're battling everybody around you as well. So like you have your ego in relation to like yourself, looking at yourself in the mirror and like being self-critical and judgmental and hateful and all of the things. And then you also have that towards other people and other relationships. So it's like multi-dimensional.
Well, the world becomes a mirror.
Yeah.
When the ego develops, the world becomes your mirror.
Yeah.
Any hate that I have towards you is hate that I have towards myself.
Yeah, but that's a very like difficult thing for people to comprehend, I feel like, because it's hard to admit it and it's hard to like accept that that's just the truth, you know?
When you learn to accept every instance in the world as like a moment of teaching. Yeah. Right? When you can look at things with just like wonder mm-hmm. and curiosity, that's when you can start leveling. When you can love the fact that you just got flipped onto your ass. Like I got mm-hmm. flipped by some black belt at jiu-jitsu today and fucking back hit the ground and I'm sitting there laughing. Mm-hmm. Right? I'm not mad. Yeah, you're not I accept it. Off. I'm learning from it. Yeah. Right? You get put in your fucking ass sometimes, and it's these learning experiences. Why, like this separateness is like when we feel pain, when we feel alone. Yeah. When we feel suffering. Yeah. Right? And this suffering ends, and that's kind of the journey of the third density of consciousness is the journey through suffering, and it's like super. There's all these catalysts and. and it feels like it lasts forever. The 80 years, 100 years that we have on planet Earth feel like it's going to take forever, but then you blink and it's over.
Yeah.
And where that goes is that fourth density of consciousness, where a planet that may be living in fourth density of consciousness is a planet that's living in harmony, of love, where they're not killing each other over wars about oil. And they're not trying to invade each other. They're living off the land. They're respecting the planet. They're loving each other. They're bringing each other up. They're educating each other about their own self-awareness, about their emotions. They have strong senses of family.
It's just vibes.
Yeah. Just vibes.
It's just vibes. High vibes.
Yes. It's when everybody is in alignment with love, or predominantly more of the planet is in alignment with love than not.
Yeah.
That's when you can reach and actually shift into that fourth density of consciousness as a civilization.
Yeah. I can't wait for that day.
I don't think we'll see it, baby.
Maybe not in this meet too, but in another.
In another one, we'll see it.
We're getting there. I think collectively it's
well, there's communities that are there.
Yeah, there's more communities that are there now more than ever.
And that's what I've been seeing with, like when I went down to Mexico and hung out with the bioculture people. Like I see that as a fire. Like that's closer to the fourth density of consciousness than it is living in the middle of New York City.
Yeah, how?
In the way that these people around there, or at least the direct community, the small community that they have, they're more focused on love. They're more focused on their spiritual practices. They're more focused on using this life as a tool to find their way back to God. And when you surround yourself with everybody's just trying to get back to God, look at all of us. We're all living together because we're going back to God. That's powerful.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the difference. And sure, there's a lot of people that call that a cult, and I might call that a cult. But
cults aren't always a bad thing.
Cults aren't always a bad thing.
They just have a negative connotation.
Yeah. But there's little fires like that lighting all over planet Earth. And what happens when you light a bunch of fires in a forest? They all spread. And eventually the whole entire planet's on fire. And that fire is consciousness.
Yeah. Yeah, it's powerful. And it's like comforting knowing that like there are people, who are like-minded in the world. I feel like when I first went through my spiritual awakening, I was like came to this point of like loneliness of like, oh shit, am I the only one who feels this way? Like, is everybody else like, am I weird? Like, what's going on here? But then like finding more people who are in your same boat, it was definitely comforting.
What was an initial awakening moment for you? Maybe not moment, text, something that brought an awareness within in your experience.
I think I watched a YouTube video. Like, I don't know. The title was like trauma stored in your hips in like all caps. And I was like, that sounds interesting. Clicked on the video and it was basically just like, now looking back on it, it was like restorative, like yin yoga. Like that's what the video was. And we were just like in poses for a very long time. And yeah, I just like remember being in a specific pose and just like body trembling, hysterically crying. And it was like the first time I felt that I put awareness into my physical body of where I was holding emotional trauma. That was the first time I ever did that. And I was like, whoa, what the fuck? Because I had been so outside of my body and like numb and like kind of disassociating that to come back into my body and to feel trauma stored in it was like powerful. And I was like, I didn't know that the body even held trauma. So it was like a very transcendental moment for me.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people don't realize Mm-hmm. I mean, I know I got a bit esoteric about the whole consciousness and densities of consciousness thing,
That's okay.
human civilization, but I think it relates more to people when you talk about the stuff like that, bringing the awareness within. And that's all the consciousness journey is.
Yeah.
Is bringing the awareness within, and you having this experience where the trauma was in your body, where you actually felt your emotions manifest within the physical vehicle.
Yeah.
And you're like, holy shit.
It was insane.
That's been there the whole time.
Yeah. And it was insane too, because like I could literally feel my body like soften into it and like surrender to the pain so that I could move through it. And for me, that looked like crying, but it could mean, you know, screaming, getting pissed, like whatever the emotion is. Mine just happened to be sadness in that moment.
Because when you turn the awareness within, and I think this is where a lot of people struggle initially when they awaken, and why a lot of people turn away from awakening after they get that initial jump.
Yeah.
Because you have to dive into your emotions.
Yeah.
You have to
hard.
understand. Yeah.
It's hard.
It
sucks.
Tough.
Yeah.
It sucks.
Yeah, it does. And it's like scary a little bit, and sometimes you don't really want to know everything.
Because you got to take responsibility for all these things.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, it's fucking tough. When you have to take responsibility for something like me, for example, I remember like one thing that I held was like me not going to see my grandpa in the hospital before he died more.
Yeah.
I think I saw him one time and he couldn't talk, right? And I had to turn that back on myself.
Right.
Being fucking 18 years old, 19 years old, whatever I was, and going, well, that was my fault. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
Like maybe like sitting in and like the emotions I had when they put my old dog down. Mm-hmm. That was I'm not at the mercy of the dog dying or my grandpa dying. Like, that's me. This is my shit to deal with. And when you turn the world into a mirror and you're responsible for your own emotions, it gets fucking heavy.
Yeah. And like most of the time, like when we are experiencing something traumatic, whatever the trauma is, your dog dying, your grandpa dying, you, whatever, watch someone get hit by a car. A lot of times our physical response in our own nervous system is to sort of leave, right? And like shut off. And because it's too much to handle for that moment. That's what a lot of trauma is, right? You kind of leave, but your body remembers. So that's what coming back into the body and sorting through those emotions, that's really where the healing happens.
So what do you think about the blame that occurs in some of those situations where, say, you have an experience and rather than taking the responsibility for it, you blame it on the external world?
What do I think about that?
Just elaborate on it.
Yeah, I think it's challenging. I think when terrible things happen, it's really easy to blame external forces. And in the moment, like everybody does it. Of course, I'm going to blame everything else around me. But I think when you have time and a little bit of space from the situation to step back and look at it from an outsider's view instead of being in it, you can see maybe it was your fault. Maybe it was your mom's fault. Maybe it was someone close to you who was at fault that now you're able to see because you're looking at it from that outsider perspective.
Well, I think the word fault may be taken the wrong way from some people because I don't think there's any fault.
No. It's nobody's fault. Shit just happens. We're all on a timeline.
We may have caused something but from one of our actions, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think it's fault, right? There's the concept of karma. I don't know if we've talked about it
I don't
deeply
think we've
on the
talked
podcast.
about karma.
But karma manifests in a lot of different ways, in fucked up ways, and it doesn't make sense. Karma will manifest before that karma's paid off.
Yeah.
Right? There might be negative karma to happen before you get the positive karma back. There might be positive karma to happen before some negative things happen, right? And what karma is the balancing mechanism of the universe. Karma is the universe, the checks and balances. Why do you think we have a 3-part government for the checks and balances? That's the karma, right? In the government, they got to check. They got to make sure everything's in order. Karma
they could do a better job.
They could do a better job. Yeah. But
to shout out the government.
No, not to shout out the government. Just the concept.
Just the concept.
Like, karma keeps order within the universe.
Mm-hmm.
It's,
from my understanding, karma, the karmic cycle goes beyond this lifetime. There is karma that has carried over into my life that I'm paying off from, I don't know, 8 lives ago, 1 billion lives ago. There's karma that I create in this life that's going to carry on to my soul in the next, in another, in another, in another. You see what I'm saying? So I see it more as like a karmic cycle beyond this physical plane.
yes. And to make it more applicable for people,
Yes.
it all has to do with intention.
Mm-hmm.
When you're working in this life, your karma is going to manifest from your intention.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like if my intention behind a relationship is love, and I go into a relationship with love, that's good karma. There's no good or bad karma. That's
right.
Loving karma. That's
but it's easier to understand that way.
It's easier to understand when you understand it's the intention behind your actions,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now it gets even deeper than that, because your intention may be flawed and your intention may be ignorant.
Mm-hmm.
And that confuses people a lot of times, right? People might say, I'm doing this because I love you. I'm hurting you because I love you.
Yeah.
The intention is flawed there.
It gets a little diluted. There's a little bit of check that intention.
Because where it comes from, right? Ignorance. The definition of ignorance, in my words, is a lack of self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it has to be any deeper than that. Ignorance is a lack of self-awareness in yourself. Mm-hmm. So if you're showing up in the world and you may think you're acting with positive intention, check yourself, because if you don't have a high degree of self-awareness to show up in the world, that intention could be flawed. Ego could be dancing around.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm not fucking sitting here high and holy. Like, I'm ignorant.
Yeah.
I show up with the best intention I possibly can, then I still have to check myself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a fucking human being.
Yeah. So what would you say is a good measure of self-awareness? If people are listening and they're like, I don't know if I'm self-aware, what would you say to people to give them a tool to help understand their own self-awareness? Something simple.
How often you feel yourself breathe.
That's a great one. That's a great one. Yeah.
Right? I've given you the explanation before, and if I clip this up, I can put the video link.
Mm-hmm.
But I've explained presence, right, as your vibration, right? We have this vibrational state. Mm-hmm. Our self-awareness has to do with our vibrational state. Emotions are energy and motion. Energy is a vibration. Mm-hmm. Energy, frequency, vibration, right? Our emotional state is a vibrational state, mm-hmm. right? The more low vibrational states you're in, shame, guilt, fear, anger, mm-hmm. those states, they're not vibrating as fast. Mm-hmm. And they're not vibrating as fast because you get stuck in ego. Here you are, right? I'm in shame. Oh, I'm thinking about poor old me. Oh, I'm in guilt. Oh, fuck, I can't believe he died. Oh, I'm coming back. And now I'm getting angry. Oh my God, this is, right?
That's the back and forth.
That's the back and forth, the slow vibration, right? You get caught and out of the present moment for a long time. Mm-hmm. When you get to higher vibrational states, higher emotional states, mm-hmm. the frequency that you're in the present moment is more frequent. Mm-hmm. Right? If I'm in love, oh my God, I'm in love. Here I am. Oh, here I'm back. I'm back right here with Deanna. Oh, I'm kissing her. Oh my goodness. Oh my God, look at her eyes. She's so beautiful. I'm in this moment. You know what I'm saying?
Right. It's easier to come back to the present moment.
Joy, right? I catch a wave on my surfboard. I'm not thinking about anything else. Dropping in, oh my God, my hand's going through the water. This is just perfect. Look at this moment. The people on the beach, right? Like you're taking in the totality of the moment. The more frequent you're in the moment.
Yeah.
Right? And a tool for people is to just take a fucking deep breath. Here I am.
Yep.
Here I am.
I love it's so simple, and it's not even like a meditation, but it's just the inhale here, exhale now. Like here, now. That's a really good presence now. I like that. 'Cause it's easy to get caught up in life. And you got shit going on, and you got to unpack the groceries, but then you got to change the laundry, and you have work to do, and you got to send that email. It's just like, I'm right here. And everything's fine. And it just like brings you back to center.
And the more times you come back to center, the easier it becomes.
Yeah.
And that's the consciousness journey, the spiritual awakening journey.
Yeah.
Is that it's a practice.
Yeah.
Your daily spiritual practice.
It is a practice. And you can get out of that practice. You know, there are like times where I'm like on top of my practice, and there are times when I'm a little bit off.
You're caught up in the world.
Yeah. And that's just being a human.
Yeah. It's, I do think of it as like, how often can I be present?
Mm-hmm.
I think of everything as in like this vibrational state, right? If this line is presence,
Mm-hmm.
how often can I be on that line, right? How many times
Like
can I hit the
a
line
pinball
in
machine.
1 day, right? That's my vibration, my overall vibrational state. How many times can I be present in 1 day?
Yeah, it's like ding, 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 ding.
If it's
ding,
every
ding.
minute of the hour, could you imagine?
Yeah.
If it's every 5 seconds, oh, here I am.
Yeah.
Right? If it's once every 4 hours that I remember to be present, and for some people, it's that. But if you can remember to be present every 2 hours, you're doing a damn good job.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely very crazy, because I felt like when, like if we're speaking on that like emotional scale in terms of presence, like I do feel like when I was living more in like fear and like sadness, I was like, it was easier to like disassociate and go somewhere else for a while before I came back. Yeah. And like a lot of that time is just blurry. And it's like definitely crazy to see that like your memory, your feelings around things is just so much more clear when you're present.
It's the game we play.
Yeah.
It's the game. How can I use this life to get back to God?
Yeah.
God is the present moment. The more I can live presently, the more I can live in love.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we do this whole relationship thing. Because I feel very present when I'm with you.
Yeah. Yeah, me as well.
It's a major reason behind it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you are my vehicle to be liberated.
Mm-hmm.
I feel I should be the same for you.
Yeah.
And we do this dance. We call it a relationship on planet Earth. But we're doing this give take, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm giving you. I'm taking you. You're giving me. You're taking me, right?
Uh-huh.
And we're pulling each other up the whole time,
Mm-hmm.
right? You might get a little ahead of me, like, hey, let me reach up.
Mm-hmm.
Help me up, baby.
Give him a hand.
Uh-huh.
Pull him up.
Yeah. And then you might fucking fall. Whoa.
You
Let me catch you there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And like every day is different, especially in a relationship. Like some days I got 20% to give. You got to pick up my 80. Some days you're at 100 and I got nothing. Some days I'm at 100 and you got nothing. It's just always that give and take, always operating from love.
Do our best to always operate.
We do our best.
It doesn't always happen.
Yeah.
I mean, it's tough to talk all about all this stuff because as much as you would like to live it all the time, as much as I would love to be present all the time and blissed out and just, oh my God, in awe of life.
It's not real.
And curious. It's
not real.
You got to be a human while you're here.
And also like enjoy like shit that's not blissful, because that is just as important as being blissed out. All of it's important.
Something I heard, this was from Paul Chek. He said, God always says yes. Mm-hmm. God never says no. That's the thing. And you say yes. Oh, you want to smoke a cigarette? Yeah, sure. Let's go for that ride. Oh, you really want to rob that convenience store? Well, I guess we're going for that ride, right? Yeah. It's all a ride. Like it doesn't matter. Oh, you want to go marry that girl? We'll let you, but she's gonna turn into a major bitch.
Yeah.
You know, you gotta. That's the function of this in consciousness. This is our learning journey. This Earth curriculum.
Right.
We're learning through the process, and we keep saying yes.
And God's doing it all. God's blissed out with his lover on the beach, fucking smoking a joint, and God's robbing the bank, and God's blowing up cities of people. God's everywhere. So we kind of like idealize God to be this like perfect being, but I think we forget that God is everything.
And that makes God perfect.
Yeah.
Right? All in all totality, right? Something else that's interesting is like the reason we're here is because imagine how lonely it would be to be God. You just want to be understood and loved and accepted as a human being.
Yeah.
And as above, so below. Mm-hmm. Imagine you're just stuck in a void. Mm-hmm. This infinite creator creating everything. Bored. At the palm of his hand. He's alone.
Yeah, it's
lonely. There's no other God. If there's one God, there's no other God to hang out with God. So he had to create us.
Yeah.
Right? So it's pretty cool to surf 100-foot waves on Earth. It's pretty cool to go to war.
Yeah.
Right? Pretty cool to fly a spaceship to Mars.
He wanted to do all of it. Experience all of it. The heartache, the love, the joy, the sadness, the anger. And he is, an umbrella term.
Yeah.
God is also an umbrella term.
Yeah. God is a space holder.
But I feel like we don't have to preface that.
No, I feel
we're episode 4 at this point. You're picking up the vibe.
Most people understand what we mean.
What we're
right?
trying
the
to
divine,
say. Right.
Whatever
the
you
universe.
Want to call it.
Whatever
you want to call it. Right?
I actually didn't call it God for a while because I had the relationship in my mind that God meant religious. And when I stepped away from the Catholic Church, I was like, no God, no Christ, none of that. I believe in the universe. I believe in the sun and the moon, and I didn't want to call it God because I felt like the word God was religious, and it is religious, but it was misconstrued in my brain and clouded by all those CCD classes and shit I didn't want to do. But now it doesn't bother me that way because it's just a word and it can mean whatever you want it to mean.
And something I'll preface too is by calling God, you're putting a label on God. And when you put a label on something, you limit it. Right. Yeah. There's no name for God. In certain religions, they don't have a name for God. Mm-hmm. In Judaism and Islam, you can't name God. Yeah. You can't depict God. God is beyond depiction. God is beyond any syllable we can utter on planet Earth. Right. So to be able to talk for the functionality for us humans to be able to conceptualize and talk about the divine
with our consciousness.
We have to
give it something,
right? But as we develop, right? I mean, this can get real fucking esoteric if you wanted to, but as we develop, we're not gonna need speech anymore to communicate. Mm-hmm. Speech is going to be irrelevant by the time you're a planet living entirely in love and moving on to that 5th density of consciousness, which is wisdom. You've all become one universal being. Mm-hmm. We're no longer USA and China and Russia. It's just planet Earth. And I see you and me, and you see me and you. Mm-hmm. And it's all one and the same, right? And we're moving that 5th density of consciousness. We start to be able to have these experiences where I'm in your brain and you're in my brain. And we get those glimpses into that when we're in love right now.
We do get
I
those
start
glimpses.
to see into your mind.
Yeah.
You said last night, you said, what am I thinking? I said, you like getting your head pat. You said, that's exactly what I was thinking.
It's exactly what I was thinking.
And maybe I used some context clues, but
You still knew.
at the same time,
Yeah.
when you access these higher emotions, you can see beyond the physical communication.
Yeah. And that is true. 'Cause like sometimes I can just like see what you're thinking before you even say what you're thinking. Or I can feel it before you say it.
Well, that's where the spiritual sight comes in, right? We tap into this.
Well, that's a whole separate ordeal. But go ahead.
Yeah, but when we start tapping into these gifts that we have, we start
Let's talk about gifts next episode.
We can do that. When we start turning that awareness within and leaning into these gifts, some weird shit happens that you didn't think was very human.
Right.
For me, I've been channeling. Fucking open up. Somebody's speaking. Right now, it's me. I feel it coming in right here. Oh, I hear this voice in my own head. What the fuck? Why am I hearing voices? And why are they talking to me as if they're some enlightened being?
Right.
For you, you read the tarot cards and you're like talking to fucking spirits and your eyes are darting around.
Yeah. Yeah.
You start giggling. Like, what the fuck is that one? What's that ghost saying? Tell me what that ghost is saying.
Yeah. It's funny too, because when you're like using your gift and when you practice it, it becomes so like normal to you. And then like when I do go to like pull tarot cards, people are like, "Whoa, why'd you make that face?" You know, and I'm like, "Oh, I didn't even realize I made a face." So it's like, it's fun. But yeah.
Well, some of these gifts, right? People don't realize that they have these spiritual gifts.
Yeah.
I think that's a big thing. A lot of creative people are very tuned into the spiritual, whether they want to call it the spiritual or not. Somebody like I'm thinking of a professional guitarist, John Mayer, for example. He gets up on stage, and when he's doing a guitar solo, he's not there. It's not John Mayer up there. It's fucking God on stage coming through the guitar. And then John Mayer comes back after his solo. He's like, "Thank you, everybody." Because he turned into this divine channel for music to flow through, right? When you see these masterful works of art, these paintings, right? That artist wasn't there painting it. They thought about it on their own time. Well, how do I do it? But then they get into this state of flow and they leave. Right? And soul is acting through them.
Yeah.
God is acting through them. And then they take a step back and they're like, "Wow, that's a damn good painting."
Yeah.
But it wasn't them.
Yeah. It's very, it's fun. It's what makes the world beautiful and vibrant and exciting. And I think that we should bookmark and pick up on spiritual gifts.
Beautiful.
We can talk about how I talk to ghosts and how you channel and how we got there and how we work on that practice. Are you gonna fart? Okay. We have to cut that out. And why did you hover over the chair? Why did you do it like you were laying an egg? We have to cut that out.
No, it has to stay in.
I'm not leaving that in.
I'm giving you pink eye.
No. Did you shit on the mic? Oh my god.
That's why I did it. I hovered so I could.
Oh, it looked like you were fucking laying an egg. Okay.
With that.
No, we're cutting that.
No. With that being said.
No, we're not
we're leaving that in. With that being said, thank you very much. We'll pick up where we left off
next week.
Sometime next week, you'll see us. We might be sitting here in the same fucking clothes. Who knows?
Maybe. Oh.
We are gonna make out after a podcast one day,
or like in the middle to like throw off the viewer. Yeah.
Yep. All right. So follow us on Instagram. I'm at Cory Englehardt on all platforms, and
I'm at Parisi _ on Instagram and Deanna Parisi on TikTok.
Thank you for watching. We fucking love you.
Have an
Peace.
amazing day.